My name is Thomas A. Bushnell. I'm an attorney licensed to practice law in Idaho, Washington, and California. And in our series on estate planning, today I'm going to talk to you about summary administration. Now, when we use the word summary administration, I'm going to be using it today as it's used in Idaho. California defines a summary administration differently, and Washington also different from Idaho. But what we're basically talking about is when the first spouse, if someone is married, if the first spouse passes away. So the thing we need to look at is, it depends upon if there are probatable assets. If there are no probatable assets, and we will get into what probatable assets are in our next video, so you have to hang in there with me. But if there are no probatable assets and the value of the estate is less than $100,000, then you can wait for 1 month. You have to wait for 1 month and you can sign an affidavit of heirship and everything's done. That's all you need, easy peasy. But if you have probatable assets, like for example a house, you cannot do this. You will not be able to do an affidavit of heirship if there's real property involved or a bank account that doesn't have a payable on death or other probatable assets. In Idaho, you can do a summary administration, and you can see it on the chart there with A, B, and C, and A, B, and C coming down the side. You see on letter B on the chart, should be up on the screen now, that shows summary administration when the first spouse passed away. You can do a summary administration when your spouse is the sole devisee, the sole heir. Everything goes to your spouse. If everything in your estate does not go to your spouse, then in Idaho you cannot do a summary administration. You have to do a full-blown probate. And a full-blown probate takes 9 months to a year and averages $5,000 to $8,000. Sometimes it can be as little as $3,000, and if people fight, it can get, well, it can go up to, there's no limit to how much a probate can cost. So if your spouse is the sole devisee, well, people say, hey, let's just go use LegalZoom. Hey, newsflash, lawyers love LegalZoom. Lawyers got a stranglehold on the practice of law. Do you think they could snuff out LegalZoom like a stink bug if the American Bar Association wanted to? They don't want to. Why? You go to LegalZoom, you make a will, and they say, hey, would you like to leave something to someone else? Oh, sure, I'd like to leave this to Jim, and this to Bob, and this to Bill. Guess what? Your spouse is no longer the sole devisee, and when you pass away, you can't do a summary administration. I like to use trusts to avoid probate, and we're going to get into trust in a later video, but trusts have two purposes: avoid probate, maintain your privacy. So if the spouse is not the sole devisee, this tool is not available to you when the first spouse passed away. Usually it has to do with real property, and if your deed says husband and wife as community property with right of survivorship, you have to have these four magic words here: with right of survivorship. If it doesn't have these words, then you have to do a summary administration. If you have this on your deed to your house, then it can go to your spouse with a affidavit of surviving joint tenant. Now, underwriters who underwrite loans, they often require things beyond what the law is. So it really depends upon your jurisdiction and the county you're in. It varies literally from county to county. And if the underwriters will not recognize an affidavit of surviving joint tenant, then you will have to do a summary administration to clear that title. An underwriter is someone who underwrites loans. When you go to sell the place, you've often heard, if you've ever sold or bought something that goes to underwriting, I refer to them as undertakers because they're always trying to kill the deal. So a summary administration, they cost about $1,200 when the first spouse passes away, if you don't have these words on there, and of course the caveat, what the underwriters say in your particular county. But we're going to be getting to trusts in our next video where we can avoid the summary administration as well.